Marsh Mills Station, now the starting point for the Plymouth Valley Heritage Railway. Today, the restored station is a little further north than the original one, which had opened in November 1865, 6 years after trains started running through here towards Tavistock. Originally, the line was broad gauge, but in 1876 an extra rail was added to accommodate London and South Western trains, which also ran through here between Lydford and Plymouth until a separate route was constructed in 1890. Viewed from Cot Hill Bridge, this is Tavistock Junction on the Exeter to Plymouth main line, and on the right is the Network Rail Depot. As we look towards Marsh Mills Heritage Station, you can still see the track bed and some rails under this bridge. And the sign on the bridge tells us we're 15 chains north of Tavistock Junction, and it also reminds us that the line was extended to Launceston from Tavistock in 1865. We're now north of Marsh Mills on the Plymouth Valley. This train is hauled by a steam locomotive built in Poland and painted in the favourite colours of young Oliver Brown. He died aged 11 from a rare blood cancer. This trip was raising money for Children's Hospice South West. On the rear is a shunter built by Ruston and Hornsby in 1961 for the MOD. A little further along, and this is where the Leamore tramway crossed the line, carrying china clay to Lara and Plymouth docks. The last clay train passed through here in 1960. 1.5 miles north of Marsh Mills, and this is Plymbridge platform. It was opened by the Great Western Railway in May 1906 and was used mainly by people visiting the nearby countryside. It was constructed first of timber and then rebuilt in concrete in 1949. It was reopened by volunteers from the Plymouth Valley Railway in December 2012, exactly 50 years after BR closed the line. This is a typical Great Western Railway pagoda-style shelter, common on small stations across the West Country. This one was built by Plymouth Valley Railway volunteers. North of here, the track has become a multi-use trail and part of National Cycle Route 27. The South Devon and Tavistock Railway was authorised by Act of Parliament in 1854, and construction began 2 years later under the watchful eye of Isambard Kingdom Brunel. There are 6 viaducts on the line, and this is the first of them. Cann Viaduct is 324 feet long, with 6 arches rebuilt in Staffordshire blue brick in 1907. In the middle, it's more than 60 feet tall. The nearby slate quarry closed around the time the railway opened, and many of the buildings associated with the works lie in ruins in the valley. Cann Viaduct was originally a timber structure built on these stone piers, but this was demolished and when the more modern brick structure was erected. Riverford Viaduct, originally built of stone and timber in 1856, now has 5 arches and is 127 feet long, having been rebuilt in granite alongside the original in 1893. The last of the 3 viaducts in this section is Bickleigh Viaduct. It has 7 arches and is 167 yards long. Like Riverford Viaduct, it was rebuilt in granite in 1893, and you can still see the original Brunel piers lying next to the new version. Continuing north, we arrive at the site of Bickleigh Station. A Great Western Railway sign remains in the hedge by the entrance road. The station opened to passengers in June 1859 and goods in February 1860. Trains could pass here, and sometimes it was very busy with Royal Marines from the nearby barracks going on leave. Train services through here ended in December 1962, with the last day of running being disrupted by heavy snow. The 7:10 service from Tavistock to Plymouth was stranded here overnight. It's not long before the line crosses Ham Green Viaduct. Originally built to Brunel's design with wooden trusses, it was rebuilt in brick in 1899. It's 570 feet long with 7 arches and curves slightly to the east. The 6 stone piers of Brunel's original viaduct can still be seen next to the newer structure. The next station in the Tavistock direction is at Shaugh Prior. This halt was opened in August 1907, and much like Plymbridge, it was used by locals and tourists alike keen to explore the nearby fringes of Dartmoor. There was a pagoda structure on the platform, similar to the one recently constructed by volunteers at Plymbridge. Just over 5 miles north of Tavistock Junction, this is the entrance of the 307-yard-long Shaugh Tunnel, carved out of solid rock. During World War II, guns to defend the nearby Harrowbeer airfield were placed above the tunnel. The line through here was demolished in the spring of 1964, when goods traffic finally was withdrawn. In the last winter of passenger operation, there were 8 trains each way through here and 2 extra ones on Saturdays. Most of them only went as far as Tavistock and were worked by auto trains. A mile further on and to the left of this bridge was Clearbrook Halt, opened in 1928. From Clearbrook, the line passed through this wooded valley towards Yelverton, where many railway artefacts remain. This Plymouth to Tavistock branch was authorised by Act of Parliament in 1854, but before that there had been at least 2 failed schemes to bring trains into Tavistock. Construction was delayed by the Crimean War and finally got underway in 1856, with the line opening as a single broad-gauge route 3 years later. In 1865 it was extended from Tavistock through to Launceston. This is the road to the next station at Yelverton, which opened in 1885. From here there was a sharply curved branch line to Princetown, which closed in 1956. Yelverton station was behind this spear fencing. It's rather overgrown today, but in its heyday there were 3 platforms here. The main station building with its ticket office and waiting rooms was on the downside. There was also a goods yard. Trains towards Tavistock then passed into a cutting and through this single-track 640-yard-long tunnel under Rowborough Down. This is the north portal of the tunnel, and we're quite near the summit of the line here. After the tunnel, the line then crossed this stone bridge and ran over the A386 road on a large bowstring bridge here. Trains then went into Horrobridge Station, which had opened in 1859. It was the terminus for Princetown trains until Yelverton Station opened. The main platform and the goods yard were on the side used by trains towards Plymouth, but a loop and a second platform was provided for trains towards Tavistock. There was originally a level crossing at the south end of the station, but this closed in March 1952. The original crossing gates were said to be the largest single span in the country. Between Horrobridge and the next station at Whitchurch Down, the line passed over the 300-foot-long Magpie Viaduct. It was originally a timber structure, but rebuilt in Staffordshire brick in 1902. The line towards Tavistock is now running downhill through a cutting, towards the site of Walken Viaduct. It was the longest on the line at 1,100 feet and was rebuilt in 1910 using metal girders instead of the original wooden spars designed by Brunel. It was blown up in 1965 and today the river is spanned by Gem Bridge, costing £2 million and opening in 2012. It's named after a local tin mine. There's little left of the original viaduct, which would have towered above this new impressive structure, resting on this stone pier. Around the corner and we pass through Grenfell Tunnel, which is 374 yards long and wide enough to accommodate a single broad-gauge track. The last passenger train passed through here on the 28th of December 1962, with services on the last day curtailed by a blizzard. This bridge in the village of Whitchurch still carries its distance marker. We're 11 miles and 48 chains from Tavistock Junction, and you can see on this sign LAN, which reminds us that the branch line eventually went on to Launceston via an extension completed in 1865. The final station on the line before Tavistock was here at Whitchurch Down platform. It opened in 1906 and was behind this row of houses. This embankment shows where the line crossed the street, but nothing remains of the platform, which would have been on the left here. As we approach Tavistock, this industrial unit has been built across the trackbed. Interestingly, it has a historic transport connection, being the home of the Roby Trust, a charity dedicated to the preservation, restoration, operation and display of steam vehicles and other historic engines, especially items manufactured by Roby & Co. of Lincoln. Another bridge with a distance marker on the outskirts of Tavistock, and over this bridge into the terminus at Tavistock South. The broad gauge railway from Plymouth reached Tavistock in June 1859. Initially, the station on this site by the cattle market was a terminus. Very little remains to show that there was ever a railway here. There are a few concrete fence posts and some stone walls, but no sign of the train shed with its roof spanning 3 tracks, which was here on the right by the health centre. The goods shed was further to the right, and the timber yard and turntable were where those cars are parked in the distance. In June 1865, the line was extended northwards to Launceston. It ran across Whitchurch Road here and through what's now the Abbey car park. Tavistock Station, later called Tavistock South, was close to the town centre across Abbey Bridge, which was widened in 1860 to improve access to the railway. The trackbed ran through where those new houses are now, behind the old cemetery and across the river and Mary Tavy Road here. The A386 has been rerouted along the trackbed for a short way before adopting its original course along Parkwood Road, with the railway between it and the River Tavy. The line which went along where these new houses are now was built by the Launceston and South Devon Railway Company and became part of the Great Western Railway in 1876. The track ran under the Oakhampton Road here near Harford Bridge. Also in 1876, the London and South Western from Waterloo via Oakhampton started sharing these Great Western tracks to reach Plymouth. This arrangement carried on until 1890, when the London and South Western opened its own route and its own station at Tavistock North. The Great Western Line ran under the new London and South Western route just to the north of here at Ringworthy, and then ran to the west of it for the next 5 miles to a shared station at Lydford. But more on that later, as we've now reached the station at Mary Tavy and Blackdown. It was about half a mile from both villages and was originally known as just Mary Tavy. It was renamed in 1906. A passing loop was provided, but this was removed in 1892, leaving just one platform in use. Although the lines ran parallel, the two railway companies didn't share stations, so London and South Western trains didn't stop at Mary Tavy, and Great Western trains didn't stop here at the next station on the London and South Western line at Bryn Tor. Here on Burn Lane there are 2 bridges for the 2 separate railways. London and South Western trains ran under the road here, and the second bridge, the older one, is for the Great Western line. We're just over 21 miles from Tavistock Junction here on the line to Launceston, hence LAN on the bridge. Between 1876 and 1890, both broad gauge and standard gauge trains ran under this bridge, where the cutting is now very overgrown. And so to Lydford. The line from Tavistock arrived here in 1865. 9 years later, the rival London and South Western Railway trains came in from Okehampton, and in 1876 a junction between the two was built to allow both companies to reach their stations in Plymouth. Both had their own booking offices here until 1914, when the London and South Western took the station over. This is the London and South Western platform, and Great Western trains used their platform, which was to the left here. The signal box had two lever frames back to control both lines. From here, trains ran along Lydford Gorge, now a National Trust site. The trip between Lydford and Launceston took around half an hour and was normally operated by a tank engine and a couple of coaches. The trackbed here has been converted into a footpath as we approach the first station along the line at Lydford Halt. It opened in April 1938. The site has now been cleared, but the bridge over the trackbed is still in place. There was a single platform here made of wood, a small shelter, one oil lamp and a platform name board. The track here was single with no passing loop or sidings. From here, the branch to Launceston follows the valley of the River Lyd, arriving at the next station at Corriton. It opened with the line in 1865 and was unstaffed from September 1959. It stayed open till closure of the line on the 31st of December 1962. The buildings here have now been converted into private housing. The next station was 4 miles further on in the village of Lifton. The station site is now an industrial estate behind that hedge. There was a level crossing here, and this road has been built on the line. The station had a loop and a second platform to allow trains to pass. There was a goods yard here and a siding serving this factory, which opened in 1917, handling milk, and later made ambrosia rice pudding. Passenger trains and public goods traffic through here ceased in December 1962, but this section of line from Lifton to Launceston was retained for milk trains, but these too stopped running on the 28th of February 1966. 3 miles further on and the line is approaching Launceston. It passed under the old A30 by the rugby ground and then into this cutting. Here behind the new Kenzie Valley Meadow housing development, the Great Western line from Tavistock passed under the London and South Western North Cornwall line from Howell Junction, which had opened in August 1886, having been authorised by Act of Parliament 4 years earlier. The two lines then ran parallel into Launceston. The Great Western Railway passed under Ridgegrove Hill here. This is bridge number 105, and we're now 31 miles and 32 chains from Tavistock Junction. New housing covers the line here, but the bridge is still intact. In the 1950s, there were 4 return trips along this route between Plymouth and Launceston every day, catering for workers and school children, with an extra 2 services on Saturdays. Under British Railways, the former Great Western and London and South Western lines shared a station here in Launceston from 1952. It was where that car showroom is now. But before that, the old Great Western line from Tavistock had terminated in a station at the end of this road. A building supply warehouse now stands on the site. Although the last mainline train ran into Launceston in October 1966, there are still steam trains here in the guise of the narrow gauge Launceston Steam Railway, which opened in 1983. Many of the buildings here come from closed stations in the south, like this one from Tavistock North. Many of the engines started life in Welsh slate quarries, and one of the carriages in this train is a replica of one used on the Torrington and Marland Railway in North Devon.